Hello and welcome back to another EN4 News Sports Paper Review. I'm joined by Bryce Donaldson and Luke Barry. How are we doing today, gents?
Very good.
Delighted to be here, Fraser, as always.
Excellent. So our first story comes out of Hearts, and it is that Uche Ikpeazu, the English striker, has signed a new deal, keeping him at the club till 2022. Good news for Hearts, Bryce?
Definitely, especially after Naismith has hit out with a long injury, so they'll need a big strong man up front that can lead that line.
And he's not been what you'd say in prolific goal scoring form. He's only scored one league goal, but some would say he's been contributing to the team in other ways, Luke.
He has. I think his physicality has been a big boost for Hearts. I've actually been at some of the press conferences where we've actually spoken to Ikpeazu and Levine, and both parties have suggested he want to get this deal done. So it is nice to now see that get over the line. He's got another couple of years extension on that, so I think for Hearts it's a very good thing because, as Bryce just said, with no Naismith, you do need other options. And I think the one league goal kind of doesn't suggest how positive he's been because he has been a good player so far.
So we'll move on to Scotland rugby now, and that is probably the biggest news out of the lineup is that Captain Greg Laidlaw has been left out of the side. Is this necessarily a negative from a Scotland fan's point of view, Bryce?
It's not necessarily a negative move for the team. The man that's been brought in to replace him is Ali Price. Ali Price has come off the bench a few times already in the Six Nations campaign, and he's really affected that team, put a positive spin. He's a wee bit quicker at the breakdown, which I think is why Townsend has brought him in. And hopefully he can really make his mark on the game against Wales.
And Townsend has said that he expects the captain Laidlaw to still contribute to the performance despite being left on the bench, and he could maybe have a part to play in the latter stages of the game. Do you see that being the case, Luke?
Quite possibly. I think it's a very, very big game tomorrow, probably stating the obvious there. But we go against Wales, who are obviously trying to get do we call it a Grand Slam in rugby? What do we call it? Is it a Grand Slam?
Yes.
There we go. When they go unbeaten for the entire Six Nations. So I think a player of his stature will have to be contributing in some way. Because I think it's more than anything else, it's experience he can bring to this kind of game. But even if he's not playing, I think what he can pass on to other players that are on the pitch, just how to control the pressure, everything like that, will obviously be useful. So I'd like to think he'd come on at some point. But this is rugby, we don't know what's going to happen.
Absolutely. And we'll move on to our third and final story, which takes us south of the border, and it's from the Europa League last night, where Arsenal were beaten 3-1 by Rennes in what was probably one of the biggest upsets in Europe this week, Bryce.
Well, I mean, it's been quite a week for European football, and any other week this might be the top story. But it's in the week where it seemingly all the underdogs are getting their victories, Rennes have upset Arsenal. I know that quite a lot of Arsenal fans before the game were suggesting that the French league is merely a farmers' league. However, Arsenal were showing up embarrassed, and they will have to do an awful lot when they come back to the Emirates for the second leg.
Clearly a farmers' league is pretty harsh, judging by last night's performance. But Hatim Ben Arfa, an ex-Premier League player, has shown again that sometimes players can come back to haunt managers, and that's certainly what he did for Unai Emery last night. Obviously, Emery having frozen him out at PSG. It's funny how these things kind of have a way of coming back to haunt managers. Do you think that's the case? Do you think it had a part to play last night, Luke?
Quite possibly. I think what's interesting is you're right, this does seem to happen quite a lot. I think in football it's such a big game now, and there's so many transfers around the world where this can happen a lot. You can face a manager because manager moves, the player moves, but it does seem to happen. You seem to get, it's almost like he's been stalking him in a weird way. But I think, admittedly, he's not played the Premier League for a long time, but any knowledge of a previous team, even if it was a bit different, can always help in a game like this. I suspect that Arsenal probably weren't expecting the game to be as difficult as it was. So as we said, it's a big uphill challenge for them now. But you've got to wonder how bothered they are. So I think the fans will see themselves as a Champions League club, which is perhaps a little bit naive, given how tight the top four is in the Premier League at the minute. But it'll be a big game. And I think you actually are quite harsh to say it's the biggest upset of, I would say, Man United PSG has to take that this week.
Or Ajax Real Madrid.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, you said it. There's been a few this week. But anyway, that has been all from myself, Bryce and Luke. Stay tuned to EN4 News for further updates.